for reconstruction and development in Morocco. So we have our banker here, and Lou Winooski, CEO of TDM Aerospace, global supply chain work in Casablanca. Thank you for being here. So you have 20 minutes. I ask if everybody please silence your cell phone so that we don't have ringing and conversation in between. You have the timer, and then we'll have 20 minutes for question and answer. Are you ready? Okay, you may begin.
Hello, everyone. Our hope today is that you get value out of the fruit of our hard work, effective teamwork, and patience. Thank you so much for all of you for being here for us today. And now I will let the floor for my teammate Munia, because she has something interesting to ask you about.
Thank you, Umayma. Indeed, I have a mini quiz for you today, but it's only 3 questions. Starting by the first question, is lighter better when producing concrete? The second question, is the price of concrete right in the Moroccan market? The third question, it's a multiple choice. Would you go for maintain, renew, reuse, or recycle? Answers for these questions will be given throughout the presentation. But first, let's start by the company's overview. We chose to work on Lafarge Maroc. It's a Moroccan company that has headquarters in Casablanca. It's operated not only in Morocco, but also in some other African countries, such as Ivory Coast, Guinea, Benin, Cameroon. The company is first in Morocco in the construction solutions industry, with a market share of approximately 55%. Its main products are cement, ready-mix aggregate, ready-mix concrete, aggregate, mortar, and its main clients are masons, builders, architects, and engineers. The company was built in 1833, and it's owned 50% by the S&I holding and the other 50% of the global Lafarge Holcim. The company has 1,238 employees currently. Now to the internal analysis. So the internal analysis usually serves to know what are we good at and what should be improved. And this year we decided to classify our strengths and weaknesses into these categories, which are this year's main goals of Capstone, which are ethics, job creation, and innovation. Starting by the ethics, Lafarge Holcim insists a lot on green energy. In fact, 60% of their energetic mix is green. They also have a reduced amount of CO2 emissions compared to their competitors, as they also have a reduced amount of waste. In fact, 100,000 tons of waste is recycled every single year by Lafarge Holcim Maroc. Now to the job creation. The company has training programs for all FPPT graduates as potential employees in both Fes and Bouskoura. Another point for the innovation, the Smart Construction Lab by Lafarge Holcim Maroc was founded in 2017, just 2 years ago, and it was the first of its own in Morocco. Now to the weaknesses. Again, the same classifications, ethics, job creation, and innovation. Starting by the ethics, Lafarge Holcim Maroc consumes 97 liters of water per each ton of concrete, knowing that they are operating in a region that is Morocco that is suffering from water shortage or water stress. The second point, which is job creation, 60% of their employees have low qualifications or no diplomas, if we may say. The last point, which is innovation, Lafarge Holcim lacks unique and differentiated products in its portfolio. Now I'll leave the floor to my teammate Umayma.
Thank you. So we believe that the industry is in our favor. We are operating in the construction sector or the real estate sector. And here, the sector is highly sensitive to factors such as population growth, urbanization, conditions for granting credits to households for real estate matters, and the renewal or the extension of infrastructure. Thus, the industry had been suffering of a crisis for the past few years because of the low demand of the real estate sector or the final customers in general. However, there is an expectation that there will be an increase at 4.8% compared to 2% that was last year's rate. So BTP, or Bâtiments et Travaux Publics, comprises of a couple of well-established companies, and here we will allude to 2 of them that we consider them as our main competitors. And we're talking about Ciment du Maroc and CIMAT, and we believe that we are stronger than our competitors. Starting by CIMAT, or Ciment de l'Atlas. It was created in 2007 by Mr. Anas Frewi. The company started producing nationally in 2010. After 4 years operating in Morocco, they got the whole list of quality certifications. CIMAT is now at 14% market share. However, they still did not get to a good and considerable level of innovation. They issued 2 million Moroccan dirhams bond, and they have as a capacity of 3.2 million tons capacity per year. And it's still a low number compared to their competitor, Ciment du Maroc, that are at 4.8%, 4.8 million tons capacity per year, and ours that are at 7.7 million tons per year. Moving on to Ciment du Maroc. The company was first created in 1951 under the group Heidelberg Cement Group. The company differentiates itself with MyCimar, that is a portal to interact with their customers and build stronger relationships. There is also Ismentili Tawzieh, that is another portal to facilitate the production and the marketing of their products. And now I will let the floor to my teammate to explain for you in details the innovation.
Now with the core of our presentation, the innovation. So in order for you to be able to fully understand our innovation, let me first walk you through the process by which concrete is made. So concrete is basically made by mixing three different elements. First one is cement. It takes up to 15% of the total mix, and it is the most important element as it acts as the binding force that combines the other elements. Second, there's water, which takes 10% of the mix, and it facilitates the mixing process. And last, there's aggregate, which takes up to 70% of the total mix, and there are two types of aggregate. Soft aggregate, which is basically sand, and there's coarse aggregate, which is extracted from rocks and gravel. The huge percentage of aggregate in the mix causes a huge drain in the natural resources as it consumes a lot of rocks. We also captured an opportunity and an already existing problem in Morocco, which is waste management. Did you know that more than 18,000 tons of household waste are released each day in the environment? Up to 10% of these wastes are composed of hard plastic. What's even more shocking is that only 30% receives the proper treatment and management. So, we thought of an idea that could help us both save natural resources from this huge draining and also help the Moroccan government manage its waste properly. Our innovation then is use the already existing experience of Geocycle, which is a company that belongs to Lafarge Holcim that is dedicated entirely to recycling and processing wastes in order to collect, sort, and process hard plastic waste to get a new substance that has the capacity, characteristics, and is able to perfectly substitute partially or wholly the both types of aggregate, coarse or soft. Our innovation will allow us to create a brand new product, a revolutionary product that will shift the industry of concrete. It is called LP concrete, which stands for light plastic concrete. It has the same characteristics as our old conventional concrete, as it has the same rigidity. It is also lighter in weight, which makes it cheaper to transport, and it is also more affordable for the final customer. Through this innovation, we will be able to cut our costs by up to 40% in the next 4 years, cut mine usage by up to 30%, and help Morocco recycle up to 60% of its improperly managed hard plastic waste. Now I'll leave Sabrine to talk to you about the financial impact.
Thank you, Atman. Now you are probably asking yourself, is this innovation profitable or not? Well, my mission today is to answer this question. First of all, I would like to start with the assumptions we based on the development of this strategy. According to la Direction des Prévisions et Études Financières, there is an increase of 4.8 in cement sales. Plus, there is high demand and supply in the construction industry, according to la Fédération des promoteurs immobiliers. However, there is a low purchasing power. Good news from Bank Al Maghreb, there is an increase in houses loans in the first quarter of 2019. Before that I dig deeper into the financial study of this innovation, I would like to introduce to you the cost of capital of Lafarge Holcim Maroc. Cost of debt, which is 5.7, cost of equity 7.8. As a result, the weighted average cost of capital is 6.9. We decided to keep the same capital structure of the company, and our initial investment is 80 million Moroccan dirham, divided into three main parts: tracks with 73%, plant expenses with 23%, and research and development with 4%. Moving on to the cash flow forecast, we came up with three different scenarios. The pessimistic scenario with a net present value of 34 million Moroccan dirham and an IRR of 10%. The realistic scenario with 63 million Moroccan dirham and IRR of 90%. And optimistic scenario with almost 92 million Moroccan dirham and an IRR with 27%. The payback period in order to get back our initial investments will be 3 years. The operating margin was a real issue for the company's financials in the last 5 years, since it kept decreasing. With implementing this new strategy, it will help to cut the costs, and therefore the operating margin will increase by 2% from 2020 to 2024, and the net margin will increase as well from 20% to 27% in the same period. And I will let the floor to...
Moving on to the marketing efforts that we will be doing for our project. So we believe that we are well established in the market. We have more than 54% market share. Therefore, our relations are already established. We are just thinking of promoting our product through distributing this kind of flyers that we came up with. So we had as a quote, "Today's plastic is tomorrow's material." And we're planning to raise awareness through campaigns. We have another step of B2B promoting through sales team. There's already LinkedIn and Facebook pages existing that they're promoting everything that the Lafarge Holcim is coming up with. And finally, we need to establish public relations through press sessions, etc. So now to the job creation.
So now to one of the most important parts, if not the better. Please, the previous slide, the first one. Yeah, no, the previous. So before digging into the answer of this question of how many jobs will be created by this strategy, let's first discover the jobs created by the industry as a whole. As my teammate Umayma previously mentioned, we are operating in the construction sector, and this sector employs 1,169,000 people in Morocco. That represents 10% of the services sector in the country. Still, these jobs are characterized to require no diplomas or low qualifications. As we can see here, 62% of them have low qualifications as they work overtime. So almost 50% of them work overtime. Now to the companies, please. The company has 1,238 employees. As we also know, that per each geocycle plant, we have 80 employees, as my teammate already mentioned. Geocycle is an enterprise under Lafarge Holcim that's responsible for the recycling system in Morocco. 164 of them work in the concrete production all over the country, and an average of 25 people only on the concrete stations. Now to the job creation. By the first year, we will create 105 employees, divided into two. 80 in the geocycle and 25 in the concrete production stations. The 80 will be working on diagnostic consultation, laboratory analysis, global management on site, and as we can see here, these are high profiles. These are considered actually as engineers and technicals. And the second 25 employees will be working on fabrication, quality, maintenance, and administration. Now to the 5th year. By the 5th year, we are expecting to employ 185 employees because since our forecasted sales are expected to increase, so we will add up our plastic production capacity by adding another geocycle plant that will give us another 80 employees working again in the same jobs.
Moving on to the change management approach. Change is the only constant in life, and it's the case for businesses and corporations as well. In order to successfully establish our strategy into LafargeHolcim's ground, we are considering the following 8 steps that are regrouped into 3 main categories. So we believe that the top management is trusting more numbers, and numbers here are showing gain in our case, either on the profit or on the customer satisfaction. So we believe also that the LafargeHolcim's ground is the best to fit with the mission and the vision of our project, since creativity is part of their DNA. In addition, we previously discussed that the concerned industry is highly dependent on others that are passing through a declining period. So saving this industry is going to improve the rest of the sectors. We believe also that the expertise and the background of the 50 existing engineers is going to help us to successfully implement our strategy. And here we will just need to properly communicate the change and make sure they understand the new method. So now moving on to the culture.
Now I'll demonstrate how our innovation and strategy aligns perfectly with the culture of the company. LafargeHolcim Maroc is one of the most innovative companies in Morocco, as it has a dedicated lab called Smart Construction Lab, which contains more than 50 engineers that are working consistently to improve and find innovations in such a conservative industry such as concrete. Smart Construction Lab has given birth to several innovations throughout the past, among which there is Arium, which is a substance that is applied to concrete to make it more insulent to sound and to heat. Second, there's Hydromedia, which is a type of asphalt that can help drain water fast and to avoid floods. So our innovation will just be another one amongst the other innovations that were released in the past. Second, LafargeHolcim Maroc is one of the most environment-friendly companies in Morocco, as up to 60% of its energy is clean. So our innovation, by helping Morocco get rid of its waste and help save the environment, will be perfectly in line with the company's culture.
Moving on to the ethical impacts of this innovation, LafargeHolcim signed a contract with l'Association Professionnelle des Cimentiers, which ensures actions such as seminars and trainings that advertise for health and safety culture. By implementing this strategy, we will be trying to reduce the waste caused by household waste. And can you imagine that there is 18,000 tons of household waste each day released? Therefore, with following this innovation, we will help to reduce the cost, reduce the waste by implementing it into the concrete production. And therefore, billions of concrete cements are produced each year, which cause harm to the ecological system. And by using this innovation, we will be saving 80 million tons of sand worldwide. Therefore, in order to build a society, we will need to save the environment. And thank you.
About 20 minutes for questions, and I'm going to start this round of questions with Hisham Boussakri from Renewable Energies.
Thank you. Since I'm the first jury to intervene, I have to do all of the polite stuff. Thank you very much for the presentation. It was quite interesting and everything else. Um, so I appreciate the idea of combining two businesses within an existing group so synergies can be created. So I think this is a positive point. I wanted also to understand whether you looked into the full business of recycling, collecting, sorting plastics before you are able to actually process it and including in concrete. This is a poorly organized and structured business in Morocco, and unless you can secure a, first of all, regular source supply, and you are able also to make sure that you have a predictable collection system, I'm not sure the rest of the business is easy to do. So have you looked into this part of collecting, sorting?
Well, thank you first for being here. It's our honor to have you as judges today. And thank you for this question, because actually 20 minutes is not enough to dig into more details. So your question was, did we insist on the recycling of the plastic?
Collection.
Collection of the plastic. So it is worth mentioning that 10% of the Moroccan waste is plastic. That's the household waste. Now the industrial waste. We have many companies operating in Morocco that have hard plastic as residues. So all of this information, plus the historical data that we already have, plus experts from the industry, say that the collection of plastic won't really take a hard process or a large process, because we actually have two types of them. So we have two sources of plastic, and thanks to the geocycle plants that already exist in Morocco, it's worth mentioning that we have already 4 existing in Tanja, Bouskoura, Alghera, and Omezza. They are already doing the recycling thing. They are already collecting the plastic, so they have the expertise in this kind of processes. I will leave the floor to my teammate to add something.
Yeah, if I might add, the geocycle, as my teammates already mentioned, it was created in 2017. And Lafarge's team has already established relations with the people from where they get their waste. So they've been through the process for 2 years, and they already have their sources of waste.
So I have a follow-up question on this. So specifically the industry waste of plastic, if you've looked into it, very often they recycle their own rejects. So from an environmental perspective, looking into the full system, is it better to recycle plastic, reuse it as plastic, or is it better to capture it in concrete and have it buried somewhere forever? Just which use or recycling of plastic is better for the environment overall?
Well, again, thanks for this question. Recycling a plastic is good, whether it was into concrete or recycling it into the environments that will never gonna appear again. So having these kinds of plastic into the concrete will be for sure better for the environment, because at least we will reduce the amount available in the community, that's first. And again, it will be away from others that won't harm others, as it would be if that was available on the environment.
There is another point that we have the recycling process of the plastic is especially treated for this concern, like the treatment and the steps it's going through is for the construction matter. So it's treated for this reason.
Another point is that if, as you said, we recycle plastic and use it another time as a plastic product, then we're going to have the same problem once again. It's going to be thrown away in the environment, and then we're going to have to recycle it once more. But burying it in concrete, we know that buildings last for a very long time, so we wouldn't really bother recycling it one more time. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation. I have very much appreciated it, so really well done. And I've liked the way you have interacted all together. So great work, teamwork. 3 questions. One is a follow-up question of my colleague, is how sustainable is your innovation in this, especially in the, in an international context where, and in a Moroccan context where plastic is now banned for almost everywhere. Then you mentioned only 10% of the household waste comes from plastic, and it's going to be an increasing trend to have zero plastic going forward within the next 5 to 10 years. So how sustainable is your innovation? Have you thought also in terms of policy dialogue to have with the authorities on the whole solid waste management cycle, especially in Morocco? The second question is about the scenarios, the 3 financial scenarios. I'm not sure I've understood what you meant, so I would like you elaborate a bit on the pessimistic, optimistic, and scenarios. And finally, you started your presentation with a quiz, so I would like to have the answers to the quiz. Thank you.
As I said, we are saving the environment from 18,000 solid household waste released each day. So by using this amount of waste in the concrete production, we will be saving the environment, and implementing it in our production, we will not be a need in order to recycle this plastic, and we will have buildings that are lasting for a long period, and they don't need maintenance. So I think there is no better way to save the environment from waste that is not it is not really used especially in Morocco. There is no recycling culture, and using such waste in a production or an industry.
And if I may add, our innovation has 2 sustainable aspects. The first one is first saving the mines from exploitation. So as I said, they are being drained so fast, as aggregate takes up to 70% of the concrete mix. So by using plastic first, we're going to be using less natural resources. This is the first part. Second part is that through this innovation, we will be able to recycle up to 60% of solid plastic waste, and therefore save the environment. And if we are successful to market our strategy, and maybe it's going to be used internationally, its potential is to save up to 800 million tons of sand worldwide. And that's a pretty big impact, if you ask me. For these scenarios, well, as it is a new product, we expected it to sell, to have some resistance from our already existing customers. Therefore, we expected the sales to be not that big at the first years. Therefore, we had 3 different scenarios. The first scenario, we expected that 15% of our total concrete sales will be replaced by the new LP concrete. And then it's going to keep growing at a constant rate of 5% each year. For the pessimistic scenario, we expected that at the first year, this total sales of concrete will be replaced only by 10% with the light plastic concrete. And the same thing goes for the optimistic scenario. We expected that the product will have less resistance, and therefore replaced by up to 20% at the first year the total sales of concrete.
Yeah, now answering to the quiz. So the first question was, is lighter better when producing concrete? And the answer is yes. Why? Because now we have the light plastic concrete. The transport cost would be cheaper, because now we can transport much higher quantities in less time. And the second question was, is the concrete price right in the Moroccan market? Well, is it worth mentioning that our product will be sold by 700 dirhams, knowing that the concrete now in the Moroccan market is worth 750 to 800 dirhams, and the price, it might go up until 1,000 dirhams if you need a real hard concrete with good aggregates. So the price may also affect the purchasing power. That may also again impact the whole industry, not also the construction, but the building and the real estate. The last question, would you go for maintain, renew, reuse, or recycle? Well, the answer for this question, we chose to answer recycle. Why? Because we are recycling the plastic, removing it from the environment, and keeping it into buildings, because buildings will stay there for a longer time and will minimize the quantity of plastic available in the community or in the environment in general. I hope you
Thank you.
answers.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
Thank you, sir.
It was very clear. So I have a couple of questions. So the first one is regarding the LP cement itself. Is it an innovation that would be only deployed in Morocco, or does other countries already have it and deployed it?
Well, it has been first tested by a very small scale in Australia, the first time. But it was not mass produced, it was just for testing and for testing for these safety issues that are related to using plastic, replacing aggregate with plastic, and it has passed all the tests. For the future, if our product meets success, we will definitely expand first to the African continent, as Lafarge Holcim is already existing and operating in several different countries in the African continent. So yeah, we would like to deploy it also in more than 3 countries in the sub-Saharan Africa.
If I may add, we were asked to implement our strategy in Morocco so that we enhance the current situation of Morocco. We create jobs in Morocco and reduce the rate of unemployment. So we want to see the positive result of this strategy on the Moroccan market, and then next step would be other countries.
And obviously the other countries will be African countries, because Lafarge Holcim Maroc is already existing there, as Morocco has an insightful sight towards Africa. So maybe this concrete will not only work for Morocco, but also for the whole African continent.
Because the main problem here is scaling, knowing that in the value chain, the bottleneck is a valuable plastic, recycling valuable plastic, because when recycling plastic, it's not, there is a quality issue in it. So it needs to be processed, it needs to be filtered and so on. So how are you going to guarantee that you will have the necessary quantity to scale in Africa, knowing that most of African countries are not recycling plastic?
Yes, you are right, sir. They are not recycling plastic countries, and the African continent, if we compare it to the European continent, for instance, has a very low rate of recycling. So still, we have the plastic ready. As already mentioned, we have 10% of our waste only hard plastic. And we have other companies operating in the African countries that have plastic as residues. So the raw material is existing. We only need the people to manage these residues and make from them value. So we are making from the plastic value.
Okay. And the last question is, how are you going to manage the change in the customer's mindset? Because you specified the different type of customers, but what is the mix between a company that is, for example, let's say, even if there are competitors, let's say Prestigia or CGI or others, regarding the people that are building themselves their houses? I mean, just contracting a small, BTP company in the city. So what is the mix between the two? Because in Moroccan mindset, you asked a very good question at the beginning, is lighter better? Technically, yes, but in our Moroccan mindset, when it's heavy, it's much better because it's solid, it's there.
Yeah, my teammate has
So, as we already mentioned, we are operating in a sector that is highly sensitive to the price first. So our product is cheaper than the existing one. So they might be interested from this side, like price-wise. However, we are operating, our customers are innovative and young-oriented. So they opt for innovators' ideas, and we believe that through our marketing efforts, as I already mentioned, we are organizing other B2B campaigns, so that we can explain better our products and how beneficial it is to the community and to the industry.
Adding to the thing that my teammate said about the B2B, we are not just caring about the big companies, but also about the community. Lafarge Holcim Maroc is really a good company when doing the campaigns, especially in the cities where they are operating. So it's not only within the company, but also outside the companies. If we are dealing with B2C, then we will make sure to deliver the idea that this kind of concrete, the LP concrete, is as strong as the other one, even if it's lighter. Plus, we will add the idea that it's ethical and it's job creating. So I guess, in my opinion, and we do believe as a whole team, that this type of concrete will really work in the Moroccan markets as much and in the whole African continent. Because as my teammate Umayma already mentioned, we are a country that is price sensitive, especially when it comes to the real estate. That's first. And second of all, we are looking forward to a better future, to a better environment future. So Moroccans, I do believe that they will be happy to buy a concrete that's cheaper, at the same time stronger and ethical.
Well, if I may add, we are moving on through a vision of green plan as it's supervised by His Majesty. So even though it looks like heavier is better because it's stronger, but we will, as my teammates said, we will go through campaigns and seminars to introduce the new products and build the confidence with our already existing customers and new other customers, of course.
Thanks.
Excellent presentation. Thank you.
Thank you,
A couple of questions. One, is there in Morocco a standards organization that establishes for the concrete industry the various standards for types of concrete and appropriate applications?
In fact, yes, as I said, there is l'Association Professionnelle des Cimentiers, and Lafarge Holcim is part of this association. They are making seminars and trainings for all the partners of the association in order to advertise for the safety and the health of the employees and the safety of the products as well.
Okay, so presumably they also identify various grades and the appropriate application. Can you, have you developed a matrix that compares the mechanical properties of this LP concrete to the various established concrete formulations for particular applications? And have you differentiated various products based on the mechanical properties of the material?
Yes, actually, that's what we did. We don't have the matrix right now on us, but as I said, plastic concrete is going to replace partially conventional concrete. So that way, we're going to have different sets of products that are intended for different uses. So the first type of concrete will have up to 10% of plastic concrete replacing the 70% of conventional concrete. And it's going to be the strongest one, and it's going to be used for the most complex structures, the tallest buildings and things like this. The second one will have 20% of plastic aggregate, and this one is going to be in the middle one, in the middle between the strongest concrete and the least strong one, and it's going to be also intended for other uses. The last one is the one that contains up to 30% of plastic aggregate, and this one is going to be used for very simple structures and not that tall buildings.
Okay, so you mentioned a lot in your presentation building applications, but there are structural, there are non-structural, there are architectural, decorative, and that type of thing. It would be interesting to see the differentiation. And the other thing that drives, it goes back to the source of the raw materials. You need to establish an engineering standard for the chemical composition, the aggregate size of the various attributes of the starting material, so that you're driving quality control from the source of the materials. So very critical that you get those requirements correct.
Yeah, sir. Adding up to the safety side, We have another campaign that Lafarge Holcim is working on now, like currently, that is called Salamati. And since they're promoting their norms, then they're for sure fitting the norms of the industry.
Thank you very much.
One last question from our final judge. So if you can keep your answers concise, that would help.
Thank you very much. It's very interesting to see the passion that you have about cement. So you got me now hooked into cement. I didn't know much about it before. Two questions. First one is about the industry outlook. In a country where we do have a massive oversupply of real estate, I think some of your forecasts and projections, in my view, were a little bit over-optimistic in the context of also Lafarge Holcim losing some share over the last couple of years because of the newcomers, but also have seen their margin eroding. So just to watch out in terms of how bullish you are about the market going forward. And maybe more about how much of the mix will be your new technology in the overall business of Lafarge. So that question about the industry outlook, number one. Number two, recycling is something that as Coca-Cola company we're investing a lot on in Morocco and around the world, and it's a very complex issue. Usually when you want to do good to the environment, it creates extra cost. It's not necessarily a cost advantage at the beginning. There's a learning curve until you start really making good money. So the watch out there is that recycling, that to Hisham's point earlier, recycling in Morocco is still a major challenge when it comes to collection, when it comes to sorting the plastic, and when it comes to basically having the right infrastructure to process that. In our industry, which is the food and beverage industry in Morocco, the laws still prevents us from using recycled resin of PET for food grade packaging. So we cannot, although we have the technology to produce a Coca-Cola bottle with recycled PET, in Morocco the legislation does not allow it yet. It's okay in the US, it's going in Europe, in Morocco it's not there. But the point is, recycling requires an infrastructure that is today extremely fragile and it's informal. Because what you have is waste pickers around the country. So the value chain cost that you have done, the model that I've used, is based on a very informal way of collecting the waste. When that informal eco-cycle becomes formal, the cost will go up. So you really have to be careful about the whole business model and that making sure that the value chain that you have collected and the prices that you have mentioned earlier is really sustainable along the way.
First of all, for your first question, it is true that the real estate markets experienced a stagnation over the past years, but thankfully we came up with some new forecast, which is from La Fédération des Promoteurs Immobiliers. They state that there is high demand and supply for the construction industry, yet the purchasing power is low. And Bank Al Marib came up with some good news to the construction industry in the first quarter of 2019, that there is an increase in houses loans. So people are aiming to buy and buy new houses, and the construction industry is going through a new vision and new phase of development. So this period is a transition period for the construction industry. That's why we were a bit optimistic about the forecast.
Okay,
Thank you.
very much. Congratulations on all you've done and accomplished. If you can transition to the next team, we'll take about 10 minutes to transition and we'll almost be back on our 11 o'clock start time.
لا هذا راه عاد جابوه لي شوف هذاك واش خدام لا هذا جوج هنا جوج هنا بحال بعض ودو ميكرو كاينين بجوجهم خدامين كي دايره وقيله هي هذيك اللي ما بين الكراسه لا كبيره ولا صغيره كي دايره اسمها زعما شوفونس نوقفوا بحال هكا نجيو هكا حدا حدا ماشي توقف قدام الطبق هنا بعدها شويه صافي بركه بركه اوكي
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started again. We are now on team number 3 for the finals competition. For people who've been coming in and out, I want to reintroduce our prestigious panel of judges. I'm going to start with Marie-Alexandre Labrie because she'll start our questions this time. She is with the European Bank of Reconstruction and Development in Morocco. And next to her is Badr Idrissi, who's the CEO of Atlan Space. He's in software and artificial intelligence and an entrepreneur himself. I've got Lou Winowski, who is the CEO of TDM Aerospace, and he's in global supply chain located in Morocco, in Casablanca. At the other end of the panel, we've got Imad Manoussi Ben Moussa. I work with his cousin, so I should be able to pronounce that more smoothly. Imad is the CEO of Coca-Cola North Africa, and Hisham Boussikri is the CEO of Microtronics. By the end of this afternoon, I'll have it. Has extensive software, startup experience and coaching people in innovation startups. So he's a good person for people to follow up with. Industry experience in renewable energies. If the team is ready, we'll go 20 minutes for presentation, and then the judges will have 20 minutes to ask questions. You ready to begin? Okay, begin. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, members of the jury, family and friends, thank you for attending today's presentation. Since summer is approaching, many of you will probably be traveling and staying at an Ibis hotel, attending a wedding at a Sofitel hotel, or just going to the Novotel at Marrakesh. The common point between all of these places is that they're all owned by one company that my teammate Nada, Hajar, and Lamia and Ismail will present today, which is Rizma Company. For the structure of today's presentation, we will first start with the company overview, and then we're going to move on to the industry overview before presenting the Rizma internal assessment, and then the formulated strategy and how we implemented it. Rizma is a public Moroccan company based in Casablanca that was created by the French group Accor in 1993. It was first created in order to manage and contract projects here in Morocco. It is operating in the hospitality industry and is mainly focusing on hotels and resorts. It was introduced to the Casablanca Stock Exchange in 2006 and is considered now to be one of the most important players in the hospitality industry. Two main investors of Rizma Company are RMA Watania et Fonds and Accor. Rizma is operating in 13 cities in Morocco with more than 35 hotels and with 8 different brands ranging from luxury, upscale, mid-scale, economic and budget hotels. When it comes to the tourism industry in Morocco, it is considered to be one of the most important sectors in the economy since it represents 11% of the GDP and allows the creation of 532,000 jobs in 2017, which represents 5% of the employment of the economy.
Vision 2020 was created by the Moroccan government, and it aims to increase the size of the tourism industry and to make Morocco one of the popular travel destinations worldwide. In order to achieve that, the Moroccan government decided to focus on certain segments of the tourism industry, and those include the green sustainable tourism and the domestic tourism. What this means is that companies who go in those directions benefit from preferential treatment in terms of taxes and laws. Using Portrait's 5 forces, we have analyzed the attractiveness of the industry, and we found that overall the industry was attractive because it is hard for new competitors to enter their market, and because the supplies are easily accessible. However, it is important to note that the competition in the industry is pretty intense. And now moving on to the competitors of Rizma, we found that the main competitors are Atlas Hospitality, Hotels and Resorts of Morocco, Kendi Hotels, Riyad Mogador, and Le Groupe Benaboud. These hotel groups have the highest market share after Rizma. However, there are other direct and indirect competitors, such as apartments, riads, private hotels, motels, hostels, Airbnb, and couchsurfing.
Now, by studying the external environment, we have identified four main opportunities. So first of all, we have the growing demand for mid-range hotels. Then we have the untapped market potential of the millennial segment. Then we have the growing trend towards ecotourism and the growing trend towards smart hotels. And finally, we have the increasing usage of data mining techniques to better understand customers and to tailor offerings to better suit their needs and preferences. Now, moving on to the threats, we have identified three main threats. So first of all, there is the emergence and increasing popularity of substitutes such as couchsurfing and Airbnb. Then there is the seasonal nature of the tourism industry in Morocco. And finally, we have very strong competitors, including Groupe Benaboud, which has been rapidly expanding for the past recent years. So it is worth noting that Groupe Benaboud has recently purchased 3 hotels from Rizma and is rumored to be in talks to purchase a few more. Overall, even though the industry is very competitive, we still believe that it's very attractive and offers a great potential for profitability. So now moving on to the internal assessment, analyzing Rizma's financials. So starting off with profitability, we have noticed that Rizma has registered a 53.70% growth in its operating income. However, as you can see, the net income for the years 2015 and 2017 has been negative, and that was due to high non-operational costs that were incurred during those years, and this resulted in a negative return on equity and a negative return on assets. Now, moving on to liquidity, as you can see, 2016 was obviously a very rough year for Rizma, as evidenced by its low current, quick, and cash ratios, and this was due to the fact that Rizma ended the year 2016 with 0 cash and cash equivalents. Now, moving on to the leverage, we have noticed that Rizma showcases a downward trend for debt, as its debt ratio has been steadily decreasing.
After conducting our internal assessments, we found that Rizma's strengths are first, the Accor expertise and the established internationally recognized brand names of its hotels. Also, Rizma has a very diversified hotel portfolio, ranging from budget, mid-scale, and upscale. Its financial position is improving, and its average occupancy rate is higher than the industry average. Moving on to the weaknesses, the main ones are first, its unprofitable high-end units, the low customer satisfaction of its budget hotels, and also its unsatisfied shareholders and liquidity issues. After considering our internal and external factors, we decided to set these following objectives to ourselves. So first, we want to increase Rizma's revenues by 5% in the next 5 years through diversification and market penetration. And we also want to improve Rizma's public image through sustainable tourism. In order to fulfill these objectives, we first came up with different potential strategies, and after evaluating each one of them, we decided to create an affordable and fun hostel targeting millennials.
After careful consideration, we decided to capitalize on the company's recent interest in the youth segment and to take advantage of the government's growing support of local tourism. Our innovation consists of building a hostel targeted towards the Moroccan youth with the help of Ecodom, a Moroccan company which builds ecological hostels shaped as domes. We will establish an ecological hostel between the city of Marrakesh and Oukaimden. We chose this particular location in order to attract young customers who like to enjoy the lively Marrakesh, but at the same time would like to visit Oukaimden and be close to nature. So now moving on to Ecodom, the company who's going to build our project. Ecodom is a Moroccan startup founded by 2 Moroccan engineers from the Hassaniya School. It is an enterprise that builds houses in the shape of domes with compacted soil and ecological materials. The natural building method of Ecodom is 50% cheaper than the average building method, and it is twice as fast. So far, Ecodom has only been focusing on building houses in rural areas, but a potential entry in the tourism industry could be very beneficial for the company.
So now moving on to 3D representations of what we think our Qubba hostel will look like. So now for more details, here is the layout of our project. So as you saw, our project is made up of multiple domes that are shaped in a circular fashion. So as you can see, we have 4 main areas. Every area is made up of 1 large dome. Every large dome is surrounded by 3 smaller individual domes. So the large dome will function as a dorm, and the individual domes are going to function as private rooms. And the individual domes are going to function as private rooms. So as you can see here in the central area, we're going to have a natural swimming pool, we're going to have a restaurant, and a campfire area. And outside of the circle, here are 2 parking lots, and here's the reception area. So moving on to the interior decor, we are going for a modern vibe with traditional influences, especially inspired by the Amazigh local culture.
With a focus on nature and well-being, our ecological hostel shaped as domes represent the ideal place for an authentic, budget-friendly, community living and culturally enriching experiences. Located between Marrakesh and Oakhampton, the hostel itself is as appealing as its bright and peaceful surroundings. With our unique architecture and eye-popping Moroccan design, Qubba Hostel represents the ideal place to be in the heart of the action, escape from the hectic urban life, and enjoy a remarkable stay. When it comes to the main features of our Qubba hostels, we have common rooms where people can meet, sit together, and play games. We also have a restaurant when you can enjoy typical Moroccan food made by locals, and a swimming pool that basically uses plants instead of chemical products as a filter. We also have vegetable gardens between each 2 individual domes, and a playing field that can serve either as a soccer field or a basketball and a volleyball courts. Other main features include a campfire area, Wi-Fi, shuttle services, and the parking lots. We want to offer you a unique experience, the possibility to choose between a range of activities. So if you have enough time and knowledge on your hands, you can benefit from growing plants with an activity like gardening. But if you want to immerse yourself in nature, hiking can be a great activity. Skiing can also be fun, believe me. Nothing compares to the fresh mountain air of Oakhampton. Moreover, you can relax, listen to music, and enjoy meaningful connections around the soft glow of a campfire. Moreover, we're also offering some local tours and shuttle services to Marrakesh so that you can make the most out of your travel experience. And you can also go to Ibis music concerts that were recently launched by Accor. And for this activity, you can benefit from our discounts.
When it comes to the marketing mix of our strategy and project, as we previously mentioned, we will have an ecological hostel shaped as domes, targeted at millennials. When it comes to the price, we have decided to use benchmarking with other Ibis budget hotels and guest houses around Marrakesh, and also hostels in Marrakesh. And we came up with the price of 170 dirhams per person per bed, or people can also purchase the individual domes that will cost 600 dirhams. When it comes to the place, we have decided to locate our facility between the city of Marrakesh and Oakhampton, mainly because Marrakesh is considered to be one of the most attractive cities and locations within the country, plus the surrounding landscape that can be used all year long for different activities. When it comes to the promotion, since we are targeting millennials, we are mainly focusing on online marketing campaigns, using, of course, social media, and we will have an Instagram page and a Facebook page, of course. We will also rely on sponsorships, and we will have 3 main brand ambassadors that are influencers and Moroccan YouTubers. We will first have Nasser Ben Abdeljalil, who is the first Moroccan to take the national flag at the top of the Mount Everest. We will also rely on Taha Issou, who is an important influencer and vlogger, and also Samia Haimoura, who successfully climbed the highest summit of Africa.
Our Qubba hostels aims to be a fun and loving community. Our people are young, dynamic, and caring towards customer and staff. What we want is to make a great impact in our local communities and to achieve financial and consuming sustainability. In order for our implementation to be successful, we need to identify the people who are going to be part of the change related to our innovation and make sure that these people embrace these changes. Moreover, we also need to align our objectives and the needs of our employees with the phases of our project. With the help of professionals, we came up with an initial investment of around 10 million dirhams, a monthly fixed cost of 161,000 dirhams, and a daily variable cost of 112 dirhams per bed. After estimating the costs and the monthly revenues, we have found that it will take us 10 years to pay back our investment, knowing that the average in the industry is between 5 and 15 years. Moreover, we also found that our NPV is around 14 million dirhams, and that's assuming a weighted average cost of capital of 6.98%. Another positive aspect concerning our strategy is that it breaks even at a 48.7% occupancy rate versus 55.5% in the US. And now moving on to the scenario analysis, we have found that in the 3 cases, our project is profitable, and that means that even in the worst case, we are still a worthy investment.
Now moving on to the 3 main requirements for this year's capstone: innovation, job creation, and ethics. So what makes Quba so innovative? Well, first of all, the architectural model created by Ecodom, which we are using in our hostels, is obviously one of its kind, especially in Moroccan context. Actually, Ecodom has recently won the Global Innovation Clean Tech Program in the 2018 Maroc Polytech. And as we mentioned previously, the model is not only cost efficient, it's also very eco-friendly. And moreover, even though Ecodom has worked on several projects before, this will be the first large-scale project they will undertake. And moreover, even though the hostel concept is very popular abroad, it is still a novelty in Morocco. And additionally, we are targeting the millennials and youth niche, which has never really been targeted by the tourism industry before. So we believe that all of these aspects culminate in the fact that our Quba hostel is unlike anything that currently exists in the country. Now moving on to the job creation, we have estimated that in the first year or so, we're going to be able to create 20 jobs. However, due to the scalable nature of the project and due to the relatively low initial capacity, we believe that we can double or even triple the capacity within the first 5 years, and this will add an additional 40 or 50 jobs. So furthermore, we are placing an emphasis on hiring young locals from the Marrakech-Oukaimden region, and since our project operates in a rural region, it means that unemployment rates are really high there, especially amongst the youth. So we believe that we will really have a really great societal impact. Furthermore, we are planning to promote the economic prosperity of the region by, first of all, hiring seasonal help if needed, and we are going to buy our furniture from local associations and business cooperatives in the region. We are also going to outsource our food from neighboring farms. And finally, even though Ecodom has worked on several projects before, as we have mentioned, they will probably need to hire additional workers to take care of our project.
Moving on to the ethical side of our innovation, as mentioned earlier, we're doing a partnership with Moroccan Ecodom, Maroc, which is a Moroccan startup that is working on creating innovative and inventive green building solutions. The dome-shaped buildings are heat and sound isolated, which can help reduce energy consumption. Also, these kind of buildings meet international quality standards and can accommodate for wind turbines and solar panels. Moreover, Quba Hostel engages with local communities on various levels. First, our designs will be mainly based on artisanal products from Moroccan cooperatives to empower Moroccan artisans. Also, we will be using local products, local organic products from farming communities in the area of Marrakech.
To conclude, after analyzing the hospitality industry in Morocco and current Risma's position, we think that the best course of action that can be taken by the company would be to invest in eco-friendly and relatively low-budget project that we are planning to have with, in collaboration with Ecodome, which is the hostel that we are planning to build. However, as any investment, we may face some issues and limitations, mainly because it's a new project here in Morocco and a new concept, and this can raise some questions such as how receptive will the Moroccan market be, and how long would it take to the market to adapt to our new concept. As a contingency plan, we are planning to transforming our hostels into well-being oriented retreat for all the individuals that have busy and stressful lifestyle. Before moving on to the question and answer part, we would like to invite the jury members to take a look at our model. So if you want to please come. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Okay, we'll move into 20 minutes for question and answer, and we'll start with our development finance, Marie-Alexandre Lavourie.
Thank you very much for your presentation and for this very creative, how do you call that in English? Maquette, yeah, but it's not English, I don't care. Anyway, mock-up, yeah. I'm going to start with a provocative question. I haven't really understood how your concept differs from a cheap, eco-friendly hostel, where, you know, in Marrakesh and in that region, the market is a bit overcrowded, actually, on that. So can you describe, or can you put forward more why your concept really meets the millennium's needs instead of being a basic eco-friendly guest house? Because, you know, as you mentioned throughout your presentation, but maybe it was not really coming up clearly, you know, millenniums have very specific needs. So how do you answer to these needs with your concept in an overcrowded market? I'm going to start with that. Okay.
So actually, for our project, we believe that it differs from other guest hotels because first of all, we have the shared dorm concept, and we actually did a survey, and we found that most people above a certain age bracket would have a problem with sharing dorms with people, and this is basically the one point that makes our price per bed so cheap. And second of all, like I mentioned, the cheap price. And third of all, we also provide a range of activities that millennials can benefit from. And as we mentioned, even the fact that we are stationed outside of Marrakesh, between Marrakesh and Oukaïmeden, lowers the cost and also offers the possibility to explore the Marrakesh city and also go on hikes and do a lot of different activities that are not provided in other hostels in the region.
So the differentiating factor is really the activities that you will offer.
Activities and the low price.
Yeah, well, low price is, you have many low cost offer there. So,
If I may add, there is also the fact that what we want is for our hostel to actually create a community of travelers. So, for example, we want friends to be able to travel together and come to our hostel. And one of the important factors when we thought about our concept is the price. And also considering the fact that it's nicely done and not actually very cheap, but nice looking, edgy, a bit edgy, and mixing tradition with the modernity. And we also thought that the activities we suggest, for example, going to Ibis music concerts, creating bonfires, will create a sense of community. And what we're doing is that after that, we're also planning on allowing these people to communicate after they're traveling and meeting other people. So, for example, they have common areas for each dorms, as I showed. And these common areas can be where they play games, where we have their ping pongs, table foot, we also have TVs and so on. It's just to allow these people to actually build a sense of community and maybe travel with these people later on, even in our future expansion places. So it's more about creating a sense of community within the youth segment and allowing them to travel. For example, for those who actually don't find people who they can travel with, there is this possibility of coming to our hostel.
Okay, last question, because just to link what you just said, because basically the millennials really are connected. So they build community via social media, yes. Right? So you're trying to rebuild a sense of physical community.
Yes.
Okay. So there will be no Wi-Fi, no internet.
No, actually, we thought of that at first, but then that was a bit hard to implement when we asked people.
Just clarifying.
Yeah, we actually thought about that at first, but when we did our survey, we found that it was a bit hard to exclude. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much for the presentation and the mock-up. The first question is, as you know, RISMA is covering most of the resort spectrum, so from low cost to the high end. What are the synergies that would be captured with such a project? This is something I didn't catch up on the presentation, because it can, for me, whether it's RISMA or Mogador or others, it's from your presentation, for me, it would be the same. If tomorrow Mogador are doing a second partnership, if it's not exclusive with Ecodom, they would be competing in the same area. So what are the synergies that are captured because it's RISMA?
Actually, after conducting our financial analysis, we found out that the mid-scale projects are better than the upscale investments. So this is why we actually choose. We decided that RISMA is gonna invest in a low cost investment.
No, because for me, the question is more about what are the lessons RISMA has learned from its experience in managing from low cost to high end. What are the lessons they've learned so they can be really performing in this new niche that was really untapped in Morocco?
I think that RISMA is the best company that can have this project or create this project, mainly because of the expertise of the Accor group. That was the first company that created RISMA, and since they are even better at managing low-cost and mid-scale projects, so they have the necessary knowledge in order to have this product better than other companies.
If I may add, also we have noticed from reading RISMA's financial reports that actually the better performing segments that they have is the mid-range and low-cost. They actually have an occupancy rate of 69% in their mid-range and low-cost projects, and it shows that they are so much better at managing smaller low-cost hotels and budget hotels such as Ibis budgets, but they have actually made a lot of mistakes with high-end projects such as Sofitel, the Hilton that they recently purchased. So we wanted to capitalize on their strength and strengthen that area.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you for your model there, which helps a visual person like me understand what you have in mind, and a very well executed presentation. A couple of questions for you. One, have you, do I understand correctly that this is targeted Moroccan youth, or is this at international youth? Can you clarify that for me, please?
So first, we thought about improving the domestic tourism here in Morocco, since the youth population is very important. But after some research, we found that it's even better to make it open for everyone, for every millennials, even for foreign tourism. So basically, it's for everyone who is willing to have this experience.
If I may add to what my teammate said, actually we first thought of promoting domestic tourism as it is one of the main vision of Maroc 2020, but still this concept is going to be very attractive for international visitors.
So have you profiled the demographics? What does the typical tourist or occupant look like, age, gender, nationality? Have you done that profiling? Have you thought about how within this environment these multi-cultures will interact with each other, and how the environment will promote that interaction?
So actually we conducted the market survey, and it included a lot of the international students that we have here at AUI. So a lot of them, the main problem that they said when they were traveling in Morocco, for example, they had the language barrier, they wanted to meet more people. So the profile actually that we are aiming for our international audience are people that are willing to explore new places, people that are maybe between the ages of like 18 to maybe in their early 30s. People who are open to new experiences, people who don't really mind sharing rooms with people, because that could be an issue for some individuals. So I think that's basically our targeted demographic for international visitors.
Thank you. And then one final question or comment. Your objective stated early on is you want to increase revenue for the Accor group, have an impact of 5% over 5 years. Is that it? Is that correct? Did I have that right? And can you can achieve this with a single location, or how many locations you need to have, and have you looked at that impact over the next 5 years by location?
So actually, what we did is that we said that there will be actually an expansion with this project. This is just the first phase of our project in order to start it the earliest possible. The good thing about our project also is that it can be built easily with the Ecodome, since they have a short time to build their projects. And so in the future, just for Marrakesh, we're assuming that in 3 years we'll be building more units around it. Plus, there is also the fact that we're planning to expand to other locations, such as Agadir and actually Akshur. So, for example, Agadir, we wanted more to emphasize on aquatic activities because it's besides of the sea. And we also thought about Akshur as a natural spot that a lot of youngsters have mentioned when we talk to them. So these 5% will not be only achieved with this project alone, or at least this part of the project alone. So the 5% would be most probably done with the expansions and the current expansion of our project and future expansions in other locations.
So based upon some recent experience I've had with visitors, young visitors from around the world, location near an attractive city, location near public transportation, the train system, that type of thing. Millennials don't like to drive vehicles. And then some activities that they can definitely share with each other, particularly incorporating the local culture would be my suggestions. Thank you.
I have actually two questions. The first one, is related to an insight you shared earlier about the image of Groupe Accor depends really on the banner, on the brand. And that usually the customer experience in the brand like Ibis was not really very good, and it impacted the overall image of the company. How would you fight the cheap price, cheap customer experience with this concept? So what is it that you're going to give to consumer to believe that even if it's cheap, he or she is going to have a great customer experience in that product? And the second question, and then Lou mentioned that, but I didn't quite capture it in the presentation. What is your overall ambition of this new product within overall RISMA next 10-year growth strategy? What will be the mix of revenue, profit? How will that impact the overall image of RISMA? I didn't quite capture that in your presentations. Thank you.
So actually, we've mentioned that a lot of the Ibis hotels are poorly viewed by a lot of customers. But actually, what we have also noticed, which was interesting, is that there is a variability between the Ibis hotels. Some Ibis hotels that they have are performing really well, some others not so well. Because actually, the structure of RISMA is that RISMA owns a lot of subsidiaries. So each subsidiary actually owns certain Ibis hotels. So the performance really depends on the on the management style of the subsidiary. So actually what RISMA has been doing recently is that it has been reinventing its subsidiaries, renewing the contracts. It also has let go of one of the subsidiaries. So we believe that this change in management will also impact how low-budget hotels are perceived. And they also have mentioned in a recent interview that they are prioritizing the improvement of mid-range and low-budget hotels because they have noticed that their high-end units are not really profitable. So first of all, we believe that RISMA's management will really step up and learn from their past mistakes. And we also believe that even though our project has a low initial investment, I think the project looks really attractive and it doesn't give off the cheap vibe, even though the price is cheap. And so I think also the fact that we have shared dorms kind of justifies our low price. And we also have premiums for other activities. So if somebody wants to spend more money, they can. So it's not really an all-around cheap hostel. We also have private rooms, which cost 600 dirhams per night. So we are catering to both ends of the spectrum, not only people who don't really have resources, but also people who want to spend a bit more on their vacations.
Thank you. What about my second question? What is the ambition of this project in the overall strategy, long-term strategy of RISMA? How do you see this project in 2030, for instance?
In 2030, I hope actually that we would have many units around Morocco. What we're planning is actually an expansion, and so that we can cater to the maximum of the Moroccan segment, the Moroccan youth segment, which represents an important demographic in Morocco. And there is also the fact that RISMA has been facing some issues in terms of their image. They have been involved in some scandals and so on. And so we thought that maybe a hostel that would be ecological and be affordable to many of the youth who are actually using social media and would be promoting the image of RISMA, it would be very beneficial. And plus what we're doing is that, for example, we chose brand ambassadors that go with the image of our project. For example, we chose some hikers who were actually rewarded in Morocco, and we also choose one very famous blogger, which is Taha Issou, and which travels around the world and maybe can make this project even more known around Morocco and maybe worldwide. But for example, in order to cater also to the international audience, as you mentioned earlier, we decided to actually have an opening ceremony that would, in which we would invite many vloggers and so on, so that they can promote our project also.
And we think also that with this project, we will try to recover the previous losses with the other facilities of RISMA. So in order to become one of the main cores of our company.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Last question from my side. When you look at the millennials and what they are looking for in a travel, it's just not only the environmental aspect, but the interaction with the local population. So very often people will forfeit luxury and comfort to be able to interact. So they are looking for this human connection that might be lost in a big group as RISMA. So is there any risk by having this project, which could be viable economically, associated with a big group? Most millennials do not want to contribute to the bottom line of a big group. They want to help the local communities, privately owned people. So there seems to be potentially a contradiction between the image that RISMA as a huge group, international, and what the millennials are looking for, which is more like local and social impact.
Actually, after conducting our market research, we found out that, as you said, the millennials value the experience over physical products. Also, they also value. They're not like very attracted to everything that is very traditional, especially in the traditional marketing strategies. But we wanted RISMA to capitalize on that need in the market. There is a need for this kind of experience. So I think this would be a good thing for RISMA to focus on the millennials niche and give the opportunity to this target market to enjoy this kind of experiences.
If I may add, there is also the fact that RISMA may be a big group, but it's not actually quite known in Morocco. So, for example, it's more about knowing the individual brands, Sofitel, Ibis, and so on. So, most probably, our customers would not know that it is managed by RISMA, so I don't think they would be bothered. But if it is the case, what we're offering is not only that the fact that it would be the same management style. What we said is that our management really involves the local communities. What we want is that the local communities around us to be actually comfortable with our project and that they can come to our project and also help us with it. So what we're doing is that, for example, we're employing people from that region, young people from rural areas, not only from the big city of Marrakesh, because as we said, the unemployment rate in rural areas is higher in those regions. And so we would actually capitalize on the people who are working in rural areas rather than actually working with the people from Marrakesh. Okay.
Thank you very much. Congratulations. We'll now aim for about a 10-minute turnaround and take the last group for the morning session. Thank you and congratulations. Oh, we're pausing now? Oh, see you all back after lunch. 1:30. We'll start back up at 1:30.